All right, guys, welcome to episode 4 of It's Personal, an Entrepreneur's podcast. We have an extra special guest with us today.
Extra
special. Chris Cumby, our business coach, personal friend, mentor, if you will. We're really happy to have you on, Chris.
I'm excited to be here because I think if we roll back the clock a little bit, we talked about a podcast, right?
Absolutely. We did.
Yep. So the fact that you guys are actually doing it, I mean, thank you for doing that.
And I'll be honest, like when you first brought it up, it seemed like,
daunting?
we're not going to do that.
Daunting?
Uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Uncomfortable.
That's a good word.
Yeah. Mike was super excited about it.
Absolutely.
AKA
Always
Crazy
excited.
Mike.
That's right.
Crazy Mike.
Let's go, baby.
Let's go. I mean, listen, I like to be encouraging to people. If, you have to get out of your own comfort zone.
Absolutely.
Nothing grows in the comfort zone. So being uncomfortable now 4 shows in and watching the reels and things that you guys have done or your team has done, it's just great to see. I can tell you it excites me every time I see something new and you guys have done a show or, I can click like or love on, the social media. It's good. I'm glad you guys are doing this because I think everybody should have a podcast, to tell you the truth.
Yeah. And it's
a great medium.
It's still like, to be completely honest, it's like still super uncomfortable sometimes putting out there yourself talking or you're like, am I valid? Am I important enough to be telling people this information? But then every once in a while I'll get like a call or a message from someone who's like, hey, that was pretty good.
That's great.
We really like it. People seeing it out there. So
that's right.
And the other thing that we talk about all the time too is it's like a creative outlet. This is the one thing that we do every month that we have zero intention of trying to monetize, and we just do it for fun and to talk to people like you and talk about business.
Yeah, right? It's a lot. Listen, true potential, we all have one. And the fact that we talked about this before in probably some of the coaching sessions, you have to take action. Mm-hmm. The fact that you guys took action created what? A result. Mm-hmm. We're doing it. You're seeing it. That result is giving you feedback. That feedback, it sounds, is getting you guys fired up and excited, or you wouldn't be on show 4.
100%.
Right? You'd be like, no, I'm done. That was fun. I tried it. But you invested. You guys have taken the time and effort to, figure out where it's going to fit in to your schedule. We're all busy. It's not easy to, get set up. Like, this is a great setup as well. I mean, that's the fun part is you guys, to your point, can be creative. And I think when we get all wrapped up in life, we lose that creativity. And, you think about as being a kid, one of the most important things is having an imagination. Mm-hmm. And somewhere along the line, adults lose the imagination. And, why? Yeah. It's a God's gift, to have an imagination of things and can imagine what my life's going to be like, what I can do, how I can help people or serve people or, go out there and do things that, are uncomfortable and, I can try things. And I think that is where you can start getting a lot more, things that start to happen for you. You start to meet new people. And what better way than having, like me today, a guest and many guests I'm sure you can line up that are going to bring value to, the people that you guys serve in your market as well. That sometimes is not relatable, but I think you just said it. People call you up and go, hey, I needed to hear something like that today. Yeah. And that's encouraging.
And I think it's very cool too that, every person we've had on the podcast up to this point, like we've had a conversation afterward about, hey, that's something we're getting a lot from it. I guess I would put it that way, right? We're taking nuggets from everyone we get in here who's higher level or doing something different than we're doing and can give us a tidbit, and we're taking and being able to put it into our business too. So it's like we're getting free consultative services.
Hey, I don't know if I'd call it free, but
listen, that's where you make connections with people and to your point, you end up getting little things that can help you, or better yet, you can help others. That's
absolutely.
That's the whole point.
Yeah, right? Some of our guests are completely different avenues. Restaurants, construction, business coach, a lot of different. Obviously, hopefully, at some point in this, we'll hear a little bit about what you've done.
Sure. You guys can ask me anything. This is open mic today.
But it's cool to take those, to Kurt's point, and bring them into what we do in our everyday business, even if they're doing it in completely different industries.
For sure.
So yeah, to Andrew's point, I mean, we like to start our show off pretty much every time by asking whoever we have on, what your background is, a little bit about,
Sure.
Your personal story, if you will, how you got to where you are, what you're working on right now, that kind of thing.
Well, I'll abbreviate, obviously, because we can spend all day on
Sure.
some of the things I've done. I feel like I've lived several lives. And I think, through life, it's a journey, right? My coach always told me the journey is the reward. And I try to hold on to that a lot because I realize sometimes it's not going to go as planned. But upstairs, the man upstairs, God has a plan for us, and I think we just got to show up, and I think that's the biggest obstacle for a lot of people sometimes is they don't actually show up, and what I mean, it's not like they don't show up for work, but they don't show up for the things they want, and it's mainly because they don't know what they want. That's what I try to help people with. So let me go back a little bit. I started way back when in accounting, actually, of all places, because when I was younger, I was really good at math. So I figured, well, why not do something that I'm good at?
Did you get worse at math as you got older?
Yes, because they teach math differently. I'm still good with certain things, but I'm not going to do algebra.
The way they're teaching my third grade son math right now confuses me.
Sure.
The way that they've changed.
It confuses me as well.
Yeah, the way that they're doing this whole block math thing.
I'm like, Alexa.
Yeah. What's 4 times 4?
Exactly. So accounting, quickly learned that was just really boring, sitting at a desk. For me, activity is just really important. I've always been active. I started wrestling when I was really young. Actually, before I should have started wrestling, I was 9. You don't really start wrestling until you're a little bit older. But I started early. I was always competitive. I think that, as a young kid, my parents kept me busy, which kept me out of trouble. And I think sports does that. I wrestled and I played soccer, so I had 2 seasons. One in the winter was my wrestling season. One in the summer, obviously, because I lived up north. You can't play soccer up north in the winter. However, that was my summer sport. And, that competitive nature, boiled into wanting to know more. Like, my imagination was wild when I was a kid because I always wanted to, learn about how you get stuff, right? I came from a humble family. My dad had a great job. He worked for the same company for 30 some odd years. It's kind of the thing they used to do back then. My mom was stay at home and she was amazing. So I had great parents. I have 2 siblings, and we had a good life. We didn't have, everything, but I got the things I needed, and most of that was just, I think, a lot of love, to tell you the truth. I got a lot of love from my parents. And because of that, I figured out how to, use that in my own life and business and try to, love more and hate less. And it led me to PepsiCo, actually, of all places.
Interesting.
I started at Pepsi, really learning branding and marketing from one of the greatest, probably, branding and marketing companies in the world, just with their length of time being in business and selling soda water.
Consistency.
Yeah, consistency. Something that I wasn't necessarily proud of.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which led me to what would I be proud of going and doing. And it was a couple of things. I sold a ton of soda water, probably well over 400 million while I was there. Personally, I track all these things because I think it's important in life, especially if you're in business or sales, particularly, my background, business development, sales, you got to know the score.
Yeah, keep score.
Yeah. Keep score. And I had goals. I wanted to own Toronto, so we did. And that's where I grew up. I'm Canadian. I'm not now American as well, so I'm dual citizen. And Pepsi taught me a lot about management style and just being a professional. In every circumstance. And, that rolled over into entrepreneurism. And, my entrepreneur world was when I left Pepsi and I realized I, sold a lot of stuff, but I wasn't making a lot of money.
Yeah. Yep.
rubber tree plan, a nice office, and a
window.
decent salary, and kind of a window.
Yeah, window.
I kind of had to crank my head a
Lean
tiny
over to
bit.
see it.
Yeah, there's
Uh,
nothing
but
like
Pepsi-
looking at a warehouse across the way, right?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I was at the bottling company in Toronto. It's different now. I've got people that I still know there, but that led me into exploring a couple of ideas, and I didn't go too far though. It just one day a lady came in the office and said, "Hey, we're looking for someone who has some experience, and he's a VP of sales." And I wasn't a VP of sales. But I knew enough about sales that I could probably run a good team, and I was confident walking in there. And I just, Brennan Mulcahy, a good friend of mine, now, we met the very first day, and he hired me and said, "Let's go." It was a young company. It was probably doing about 200 million. They were getting prepared for an IPO. So I participated in an IPO, and the company grew, to exponential, couple billion, very quickly, and that was exciting. But again, I was, in a situation where I was working for someone, and again, working for someone. It was great. I treated it, more of an entrepreneur. I was creative. I, took a lot of what I learned at a big corporation, implemented it, and now I was responsible for 200, some odd salespeople across Canada in different offices. That, you learn communication really quickly, and you have to be effective at it. So that really opened up the door for me to exponential levels. I did really well, grew fast, sold a lot, made millions of dollars in commissions in my first year of going on in a new industry. Now, keep in mind, the energy industry is massive. It's one of the biggest.
It's a huge space.
So very probably. Is much bigger than the real estate space, to tell you the truth. Yeah. And so I learned a lot from Brennan, and I carried on and built my own companies after that, with help. And I think that when you have a couple of really good mentors or people that you can have around you and coach. And give you ideas and keep you accountable and support you. Always be encouraging. I believe in that. Help people, get there. Don't, pull them back because, we all have those people around us. When you tell them, you're going to do something, they want, I think they have good intentions for you, but they know you from what you do now, not necessarily what can
you're
change.
gonna do. What you want to do.
Right. So I went nuts in the energy industry. We built 3 companies. I sold one in 2009. I always say I sold my company and bought a job, which was really the circumstance back then. Didn't quite work out the way I wanted it to. The money was fine. But I still didn't feel, completely fulfilled.
Yeah.
And so I branched out after energy. I went after that and built a small little energy consulting company fairly quickly because it was what I knew how to do. It was easy for me to implement. I know how to prospect. I know how to close people. I know how to provide value. And anything I work on, that's essentially, my skill sets. And business development has always been, I'm a deal guy. I make deals. So after that, I had this urge to, really write a book and have a legacy. So I wrote, I guess maybe Renaissance man does, is, I hand wrote a book, for my child. He was 18.
Hand wrote it?
Yeah, I hand wrote it.
Wow.
The first 6 chapters.
Yeah, okay.
Because I wanted to give my son, who was turning 18, which he could not appreciate at the time, because he was into video games and all the other things, and I gave him a handwritten book. But I think the fundamentals were really important in there, and that's really what I wanted to do is provide my children with a little bit of a playbook. And in fact, it's called the Success Playbook for a reason. And I have a couple of pillars that are really important in that book that I think is appropriate and probably for anybody really. It's hard to say I wrote the book for everybody, but I think that I wrote the book for entrepreneurs, salespeople, people that are commissioned. I don't confuse accomplishment with activity.
Yeah.
I just don't.
You can make yourself stay busy.
Right.
Nothing
Always.
makes you think like that more than being on a commission-based pay structure.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
And
Just
I
being
learned that
busy
really
is
easy.
not accomplishment.
No.
Just being busy is not the finish line.
Listen, I can move this room around 100 times. It's not going to change the room.
It's still a
Yeah.
10 by 10.
Right. So what I mean by that is, if I have an idea and I really want to accomplish something in this room, I'll knock that wall down.
Yeah.
Right. Change it. So I don't confuse the activity that I do with accomplishment, and I think that really helped me tremendously get results in my life. And when you're up against the wall and you got to make things happen, you have to bet on yourself. And that's really another thing that I learned through my coaches, wanting to be coaching people and really take a lot of what I've learned. And I was around a lot of wealthy people. I got a lot of experience, being around, even my current partners and things like that of real wealth. And it opened my eyes to how I can take a lot of those, let's call them fundamentals, or the function, not the form, right? I always try to focus on the function of things. So the form can be all kinds of things as a result. I think it's the function. And for me, it was very much about finding, some patterns.
Yeah.
And, you can rely on those things to go and, really change any trajectory in your life. And because I wasn't afraid, and I'm introverted, for the most part, I come out of my shell, if you want, when I know what I'm doing, and I'm really skillful at that.
When you're comfortable and
confidence,
yeah.
Knowing that, hey, I understand my product, my service. I can articulate it in a way that's going to help hopefully solve a person's problem that I'm working with. If not, I'm not going to do business with people. That's just the way I operate.
Yeah.
I don't look for just quick hits. I look for relationship and then helping people through that. So I mean, my background has all been around sales, business development, building companies, and now it's been in coaching, advisory, and I work with some amazing people in that environment.
And how did you initially get into doing the coaching and advisory stuff? What was the catalyst to that made you want to make a full switch to doing that?
I think like anything, I wasn't confident in it yet, so I had to have a bit of a balancing act. The good thing is, in the energy business, I created residual.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of residual income, and I also am a big fan of multiple streams of income, because things can dry up.
Sure.
Things change. Industries change, environment, politics, geopolitical. So I've always been very cognizant of, improving my skill set. And, I talk about that a lot. I still train my sales to myself.
Yeah.
I just do it in front of the mirror.
Yeah, absolutely.
I try to get sharp. I try to learn from a lot of people around me. The good thing is, a couple of years back, I was going to actually write a book and, include a lot of other top sales guys. Jerry Acuff, Mike Hunter, there's a few others, that don't come to mind right now. But these are the guys that, are leaders in sales. So I always love to learn from people that lead in that area, because I don't know everything. I know I don't know what I don't know.
Yeah.
And I think everybody needs to realize that, we have that. And I never BS'd anybody about anything. I wanted to make sure if I don't know the answers, I'm going to find out who does, and I'll come back, and, if I can help them, I will.
Yeah.
I don't BS just to try to get through a door. So sales, I knew immediately that I can help people, because
Yeah.
I've been doing it. I've done, close to 800 million in personal sales myself. I understand how to deal with people. I understand that I don't hold on to one deal. You got to have multiple deals in the works, and if you don't, you got to work on your prospecting. You got to have a pipeline that you can be confident in, and you have to have know the score and know when things potentially could happen, and have a bit of a backup plan if it doesn't. Be able to pivot. I love that word because it's a forward-moving action. I never idled. I just always made another move. So I had, this inclination that I'm going to write a book. So I did. And when I tell people I'm going to do something, that's one thing that happens. I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
So I think that's important to have the confidence in yourself. And there's, something that we, talked about, and I taught you guys a little bit about the sales cycle or success loop, if you want to call it. We all have things that are going to happen to us, and we're all going to beat ourselves down. Yeah. No one is unscathed through that. I don't care who it is. So many very successful people talk about the imposter syndrome. That just means they're beating themselves up, and they bring themselves down. But the most important thing is, I think what clears a lot of that up is making sure you know what you want. And here's the pillar in my book that I taught my kids: be careful who you listen to.
Yeah.
Listen twice from what the words are being said, and then who it's being said by. Mm-hmm. And it's really good advice. And it's so important to hone in on that and then make some decisions, not based on, I try to always remove fear, because listen, wanting and not having, there's a very thin line. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, as humans, because we're not programmed or taught, we tend to go on not having. And how the mind works is, if you're focused on not having, it's likely not going to happen. Mm-hmm. So I always really, pay attention to that fine line, knowing I don't have the things in my life that I want, but it's just a matter of the activity, being consistent
to lead,
right, with the things that will be maybe a result. Mm-hmm. And I say maybe because sometimes they don't work out. But I think that's the whole point about true potential is, when you make a move, there's a result. And unfortunately, with a lot of people, the result could be negative, and therefore they never get to their true potential because they just get shut down. Not by others, by themselves.
Well, I think you said it earlier a little bit about confidence. The key element of any entrepreneurial adventure or venture is making that first step. We don't gain true confidence until we have that competence. And you can't gain competence until you learn, whether that's from others or from your own failures, your own doings. Just get started. Make that move, like you just expressed, in the right direction. Sooner or later, you're going to learn what you need to learn if you continue to pursue that venture to be successful.
Yeah. Feedback's important. You have to have feedback. And if you don't do anything, you're not going to get any feedback.
Yeah, no, we were talking not that long ago, and you said something that I repeat here all the time, which is, stress is really just like a result of inaction, right? Like, and I just remind myself all the time, like, if I'm stressed because I don't have a pipeline or a deal, or we don't have something closing, it's like, okay, well, what have I done about it, right? But if you go in the room and you cold call for 2 hours, if you work on a marketing campaign and actually pay for it and do it, you go to that event and talk to someone, as long as we're taking steps and working and being actionable, I don't feel so stressed. Yeah, I agree. And then, like, the other big thing too, going back to just like, conversations that we've had, or an impact that you've had on us here too, is, I go all the way back to, like, I was at a pretty bad place when I came to your event, Level Up, last year. I knew that, like, I wanted to continue on my entrepreneurship journey. I knew I had relative skill sets, but I think a lot of it was honestly inactivity. I knew kind of what needed to be edited, what else I wanted to focus on. But, I had some conversations with you and Dave Clare, and Dave had a conference call with me, when he went back to Australia, and he said, you need to focus on making soul decisions, not ego decisions. Yeah. Don't do something because it makes you feel important, or you think it's what everybody wants you to do, or you think you'll make money from it. Start focusing on segments of business that feel good to you. Right. That you want to figure out more about with people that you want to figure it out with.
Yeah, because otherwise you'll be unfulfilled. Right. I mean, you can make a lot of money and be
you're still going to look for more or something else.
It made me take that pause and think, like, what do we really want to build here? And I went through several different things before we arrived on what we're really working on now. Sure. I came up with marketing and wrote out plans for several different things, but when we arrived here, it was full send, right? Because I had been given the confidence through, you coming and coaching us, keeping on track too, has been huge, because this journey is hard to do without a third party saying, hey,
bit of a moderator.
Get your shit together.
Well, and I mean, we all need to bounce ideas and things, and quite frankly, we talked about this, Kurt, that when you're leading, we don't always have people that we can talk to unless you have a coach or, someone, that can mentor and can understand things outside of your sphere of influence.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And the people that you're working with, we can't always, or we shouldn't actually always bring our,
Your
dirty
perspective.
laundry
Yeah.
to the table.
Yeah. Sometimes
It
it's
just
not
creates a bad
appropriate.
culture.
Yeah.
And, culture's everything in where you, work and
Absolutely.
Yeah, and like that's been I don't know about you guys, but that's like been a realization for me too, like how we show up here for each other and communicate with each other, even when, and we're not perfect at it, definitely not perfect at it, but I've seen like a shift in all of us of how we come here with even like our personal issues or an issue that pops up and how we communicate and deal with it with each other, which changes our ability to move forward and do better business, honestly.
You hit on something earlier, and it just resonates with me. The greatest power you have is to give your power away. And that multiplies your influence, in business, your personal life. But it makes you stronger. And I think the way that I learn the most is by teaching others or by helping others.
Yeah.
And that's really the most rewarding for me is to see somebody empowered, educated, and then move on to be successful.
Brian Tracy, when I had an interview with him, and if you don't know Brian Tracy's, one of the greatest speakers in the world, as well as sales. But he, always said, you got to learn and teach, learn and teach, learn and teach. I like to synthesize, and I think when you synthesize complicated things to explain and help people understand, how it is that you can take a complicated, subject line and you can really synthesize and figure out, what it is going to do for them, is a good characteristic of a great salesperson, because there's so many things that can complicate and you can get into deep dive, but I like to be able to take all those things and just synthesize and get to the point, and have a process to be able to do that with people.
Yeah, no, I agree. And honestly, I going back to the event that you had last year, like Jeff talked a lot about that at that event too, and just
Jeff Hoffman.
Yeah, like just try stuff. He was like, it doesn't matter, and we still now we deal with people saying don't do that or that doesn't make sense or that's not how things are done in this industry or whatever it is. And but Jeff, even when I sat there and talked to him, graciously, it's very human, easy to have a conversation with. He was like, just try stuff. Who cares what other people say? People said I couldn't, build a travel company. I did that. People said I couldn't, be a music producer. I did that. People said I couldn't make movies. I did that. And he's still doing that stuff even now. So and it's like this podcast, right? Like it sounded like a far-reaching idea or something that some people might think is, stupid or not a good thing to spend your time on, but we're like, we want to do it, and we just started doing it, and we're getting better at it, and just kind of comes together, right? You just got to start doing stuff.
Oh, you have to. There's so much power in the start. I'll tell you that. A year from now or 2 years from now, you stay consistent with the podcast, it's going to reach more people. There are going to be things that happen that someone is watching and is going to be in contact with you. It happens every single time.
Yeah.
I've started my podcasts. I built relationships through having podcasts. I think everybody should have a podcast in their business, to tell you the truth. Whether you interview or you're just expressing some of your own thoughts.
It's just a level of transparency.
Yeah.
In today's world of seeing the person you're talking to and looking them up on Facebook, Instagram, X, whatever platform, this is just another avenue to just say, look, they're real people. They have real conversations. Yeah. They do real things. And it's...
We can get to know them a little bit.
Yeah, and you get to hear kind of how they see things, what their viewpoint is, and kind of the things that they find important.
Right.
It's uncomfortable. We've talked about that. It gets easier, it gets better, and like you just mentioned, at some point, which I think we've already had people reach out about it, and I know I have, and he has. But at some point, something tangible will come from this, and we'll look back at it and we'll say, man, as uncomfortable as it was, look what it got us.
Yeah.
Look where it took us.
The best part about it, though, is like I said earlier, we get to talk to people who have tons of knowledge and information that impart wisdom on our business. Yeah. So, twice a month we get to talk to people smarter than ourselves and ask them questions about how they do things and how they see things, and then take the knowledge and implement it ourselves. Right?
It's a network effect,
Yeah.
Giving away that superpower. Every individual has a superpower.
Sure.
Whatever that is, a knowledge base, an action,
genius zone,
a mindset.
For sure. I agree.
And to spread that wealth is awesome.
So important. Yeah.
So we've obviously already talked about level up events
Yeah,
lot already.
Yeah.
But
Well, we
why-
mentioned a little bit.
a little bit, yeah. But why don't you tell us a little bit about
What's to come?
what it is and what's to come, and,
Yeah.
and talk about that.
exciting.
Well, again, like anything, I used to do a lot of smaller events, more mastermind, putting together some people in a room that can help each other. But what I really wanted to do last year, 2023, was, and we could say that now officially,
Yeah, right.
is is part of me, leveling up. And it just hit me one day when I was driving along, and I said, you know what, it's time to effing level up.
Yeah.
And that was it.
It's time to be uncomfortable.
Exactly. And we, you can't do everything on your own, but
Sure.
I feel like, it's just a chance for me to just press, I don't even remember how I did it. I said it right at the beginning of everything, and I do this even more now. It's God's plan. I'm just participating, and I took the assignment, and I went in it with full faith that, it was going to have a result. And the result was favorable, and it was everything that I, wanted to happen and more.
And in that, just going back to what you just said, it's kind of funny because I've shared this with you before, but like I was in a place of difficulty, and my wife saw the ad for the event, which I think you started putting ads up like 20 days before the event. Like it was all like very down to the wire, right? And
Very much.
so like
We
just
did-
randomly, she saw and was like, "Hey, you should go to this," and I was like, "I don't know if I really want to spend like money on that right now. Like I've got a restaurant that's not working out, you know what I mean?" And
Right.
she was like, "Just pay for it, go to it." So
See what
I
happens.
went and. Obviously it turned out to be, I met a lot of people there, you, Jeff Hoffman, Dave Clare, people who have had like a pretty big impact on me in the last year. Huge impact really.
Sure.
But you mentioned in there, you said, it's all part of God's plan to a degree, and I lead on that more, but it's funny because in that transition, that's been a big part of how things we've talked to about each other too.
That's right.
And I've really grown in that direction in my faith through meeting you as well, not just business.
Sure.
So it is cool how things that are unsuspecting in that degree work out sometimes too.
We need to have that support. So I mean, Level Up was an opportunity to build something in the community, build a community around the beach here, and have entrepreneurs connect with each other. And the purpose was, help level up anybody that came to it. An idea, a start to something. We built a relationship. I came and helped you guys, through coaching. We still talk a lot, and I'm on your podcast.
Yeah.
Which you look at, that's just one person.
Yeah.
Because you guys weren't at the event, but one person that we affected that did something, and it's obviously many others have the similar experience.
Yeah.
So we're gonna do it again.
Yeah, I'm excited
We're gonna do
for
it
it.
again, 2024. We're dialing in on the date, but it'll probably be April, the end of April, beginning of May. Just contracting the space right now here in Destin, Florida, or not here, but Destin, Florida,
Down the road.
just down the road. But to help people in the general area come to something that would typically have to fly out and go to a different city, check something out in Vegas or Orlando or Atlanta or somewhere bigger than here. And I felt like we can bring all the talent and people here
It was
instead.
absolutely
Yeah.
equal level or better event than anything like that, but on the Emerald Coast, which was really cool.
Yeah, and I don't think people expect it a
No.
lot.
I did not expect what I got into. It was 10 times what I thought I was getting
Well, then if that's the case, then we've got to go 10 times more.
Yeah, I
for
agree.
Level Up 2024, and that's exactly what we're going to do. Is we're going to bring a couple of people back that were original speakers. But it's going to definitely have a different feel, and I believe this year for a lot of people, leadership and faith is something we can lean on. I've leaned on it, and I feel like we got to lead ourselves, and through doing that, people are going to start catching on and wanting to do that. So, Level Up 2024 is leadership and faith based. We're going to have a lot around marketing, money, mindset, obviously, and our theme. But I think that we have a different lineup of speakers this year that's going to really impact a lot of people in a different way. And quite frankly, you learn from doing anything your first time. It was a beta. This time we can take all the data and start looking at, hey, how do we do it a little bit differently? How can we have more networking? How can we have more time in between for people to connect?
Absolutely.
What kind of speakers can come in and help, inspire people? Because I don't believe anybody can motivate anybody. I believe that you get motivated yourself through inspiration, hearing stories, helping understand yourself a little bit better by going through your own experiences. But you got to try stuff. You got to go out there, apply yourself, because really this is just time for your podcast.
Yeah.
It's time you're spending.
Yeah, and it's kind of like the precipice for, like, when we sat down and decided what we wanted to be about. It's very similar to what the value you can get from, an event like Level Up is because everyone came there very transparently. Even, someone who's been a CEO and founder of a $1 billion company stood there very transparently and told you about all the shit he failed at.
Absolutely.
And was like, if people, you feel like this,
Which is
people
not
are
what you
saying
see
this.
on the web nowadays.
No.
You don't see the failures nowadays, which is obviously a big part of why we started this. You only see the pretty shiny stuff on the social media.
Yeah, there's all the content out there of, like,
the edited,
making this much and you'd only do this and that, and so it just gets exhausting, right? And you play the comparison game and get imposter syndrome to a degree about certain things.
It knocks
and
you
so
down
I
because
think
you don't know how to get to that. But
Yeah.
are they even really at that?
Well, they tell you a lot of the, outcome, not
right,
the journey.
not the journey.
Yeah.
And that, at Level Up, everyone was telling you the raw story about the journey, and if you feel this way, that's valid. I felt that way.
Sure.
If people tell you this, that's valid. Ignore it. You're not crazy, right? And you left there feeling validated to a degree. If you're a person who has a mind, who maybe works a little bit different, who stresses a little bit different, who strives for something a little bit different, and you do feel crazy on a day-to-day basis, I left there feeling, validated to a degree, and like, okay, just keep doing stuff. You're not crazy.
Sure.
You can't listen to all that all the time. And honestly, that was huge for me. It allowed me to keep doing, right?
For sure. If I can, I'll share something for your audience that I think is really important, especially at the beginning of this year, and I assume you're gonna air this rather shortly. You have to really answer 5 questions, and if you can do this effectively, I think you can really start to make massive changes in your life. The number one question is you have to know what you want. So if I was to say it, what do I want? Question mark. What do I want for my life? What do I want for my relationship? What do I want, in my business or, in my work or my career? What do I want for my kids? What do I want is a really important question that I think a lot of people don't actually spend the time to answer. They just go with emotions. They kind of have a feel of what they, want in life, but it can easily change if something happens. Especially when negative things happen, and they're going to happen. This world we live has adversity. There's tons of it. You got to learn how to be a problem solver, and you got to learn how to communicate effectively. If you can do those 2 things, you can do well in life. But you got to know what you want. The second question I think is really important is you got to also ask the question, why do I want it? Like, a lot of people don't even know why they're doing things. They just do. So I think it's really important to ask those 2 questions. But, there's a deep rabbit hole to this as well. Because we're emotional beings, and I think that if we can help ourselves through controlling emotion and understanding ourselves better, because I'm a big believer in personal development is the greatest and best investment you'll ever make in your life. I don't care what's out there. And you guys are in real estate. It's a great investment, but it's not the best one. It's just not. Stocks aren't the best investments. Yourself is the best investment. And by going through these questions, I think, and really understanding your emotional self is important because we're feeling, right? We're trying to chase a feeling. So the question number 3 what feeling will I have when I get what I want? Because that's really what you're after is a feeling.
Absolutely, yeah.
Function and form, right?
Yeah.
Form could be something, but there's a function to life, and I think that you really got to hone in on what that means for you. So once you understand the feeling, you got to ask these 2 questions that go real deep. And I encourage everybody in the audience to, listening and here today to figure this out is, why do I want that feeling? That's a different question.
That's a deep question.
yeah, you don't really,
Because I
sit.
saw it on Twitter.
Self-validation.
You
A lot of
don't
people.
contemplate these things. So what do I want? Why do I want it? What feeling will I have when I get it? And why do I want that feeling? Okay, that's 4 questions, right? The 5th one is where the rubber meets the road, in my opinion, is because a lot of people, like I said, there's a thin line between wanting and having,
Yeah.
right? But this is the question that can clear a lot of that up and help people really understand themselves mostly, and again, some of the things that can happen to them if they really really contemplate and discern a little bit here. Why do I want it? What feeling will I get when I have it? But why is the feeling missing now? Right? Yeah. And if you can answer that question, then I think it gives you a clear idea on where to put your focus and your emphasis. And I think, again, I'll just list them really quick. What do I want? Why do I want it? What feeling will I get when I have it? Why do I want that feeling? And why is the feeling missing now? And those 5 questions I call the bulletproof questions to live a really good life in business, relationship, family, kids, health. I mean, these questions work for a lot of things if you're, trying to discern or, really contemplate life a little bit or changes. What a great time to do that. Great exercise. I'm doing devotions right now on every day. And the number one thing, and I'll bring this up for everybody to kind of think about, if this is your last year to live, what are you going to do? That's it. This is your last year to live. What are you going to do? Now, hopefully you live a long time and it's way beyond that. But if it was really, and some people are faced with this, unfortunately, in life, but I don't put myself in a morbid situation or thinking about this. But I like to, just really show up. We talked about that earlier, even before the podcast, is showing up. Like, what are you going to show up and do this year? What do you really want to, accomplish? And just really go do it. And, I'm a go do it, get shit kind of done that guy. Like, no one's going to do it for you.
Yeah.
Nope.
So you got to put the effort in. You got to change stuff or it's not going to ever happen. And that's the only way you're going to really get what you want in life is to change.
Yeah.
Yeah,
absolutely.
it's like you posed a question to all of us not that long ago when we were in a coaching session. Like, how would you feel if I gave you $10 million? Like right now, how would you feel? And then you were like, but would you take it if you were dead tomorrow? Would you still want the $10 million? And we were like, heck no, we'd rather be alive tomorrow, And you were like, then why don't you have that same energy today, just being alive, than if I offered you that $10 million? And it sounds cheesy, but I mean, it's it's true.
It's the truth.
You got to bring that thankfulness and gratitude and energy to life every day, no matter what the situation is.
Yeah, definitely. It's
so-
a thin line.
Yeah, it's a very thin line. Yeah, very.
Yeah.
Yeah, agreed. I think, obviously Level Up 2024, we're all very excited to be there and be a part of it.
Excited about that.
Very excited that you're having another one. I'm sure it's going to be way bigger. We like to ask...
it's going to be way bigger. I got to level it up. I mean,
Yeah,
it wouldn't
you
be...
got to.
It wouldn't be right if I didn't.
For
No,
namesake.
and I'm
yeah.
excited for these guys to come because it's really one of those things, honestly. I know they're sick of me talking about it because
I remember the energy it brought you back with, though.
Dude,
I mean,
I
with
talk
where
about
we
it all
were
the
at,
time.
with where we were at in that point in time.
I was in a bad place.
I mean, I remember,
I remember.
professionally the things we were dealing with, the stresses we had, and I remember when he left to go to that for a couple of days, and when he came back, I mean, it was completely different energy from those 2.5 days.
Yeah.
We met at the restaurant to talk about this
2
opportunity.
weeks after.
Yeah,
And
it
I was
still so there, and it
Yeah.
was so vivid in his mind, and he was so vibrant in his remembering the conversations and the education he received from all these
But
individuals.
The
It
best
was
part
powerful.
about it
You
was
know-
that he took all of that, but the scenario at that point had not changed yet. We were
Yeah.
still in that bad situation.
Sure.
But his understanding and the way that we worked through it and just the whole mindset after that was, I mean, it was a completely different.
It was
Well,
the
it was-
catalyst for the change that we are living at this moment.
One, like, even me, like, my intention, like, Mike had reached out to me. We talked about Irby a little bit and all those things. And then I was like, my intention, because of where my mindset was like, we're gonna add that to our business. I'm gonna just go and talk to him, figure out a way for him to come work for us. Like, and I
Everything
honestly, like
became
3
very
weeks ago,
intentional.
I probably wouldn't have had that conversation, but I that's just where my mind was
Everything
at the time.
became very, very
Yeah.
intentional to get to the result of like those 5 questions you just listed off a minute
Yeah.
ago.
Sure.
But I think every man's why, well, a lot of men's why is we all want to leave a legacy.
And
you know,
provide.
our namesake, whether it's our kids, our business enterprise. We want our lives to have purpose
And impact people.
and impact. Level Up helps us do that. You know, these conversations, these podcasts, you know, interacting with people of influence and knowledge is a superpower.
Absolutely.
And just give your superpower away. Help enough people to get what they want in this life. You'll get what you want.
Yeah.
But it's also the joy of the journey.
Yeah, 100%.
It makes the journey so much more exciting and powerful.
Well,
It's
Thoreau
amazing.
says, men live a quiet desperation and never
It's pretty
sing their
valid.
song.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's really important, and I obviously summarized or abbreviated that a tiny bit, but I think it's really important for people to sing their song. We all have something inside of ourselves, and I'm just a lot more overt in my faith, and I have no problem talking about the fact that God and Jesus play a huge role in everything I do, and
Me too.
I make decisions based on what that assignment is, even though I might not understand it. I just have to go and show up, and I'm sure someone on the other end is there, and it seems to always be the case. I pray more than I worry, and I try to really wake up with some intention. We talked you talked about that, Andrew. You
Pray
have to
more
have-
than you worry.
Yeah.
That's deep.
Yeah.
I think
Huge.
a lot of people, including myself, could probably get better at that.
Sure, sure.
Create the
100%.
outcome you want, work for the outcome you want.
Have some intention.
Yeah, have some intention, and that's pray more than you worry.
But
That's
the
big
prayer
time.
also helps you alleviate that stress, and it puts those worries in a box that you don't have to mess with anymore. He's messing with the box. He's got the box. You just have to
You have to
focus
trust.
on the goal, the why. Be that piece of clay to be molded that he's asking you to be. Is just surrender it all to him, and he will guide you. He will give you
I'll give a great plug on that.
his will.
Absolutely. John Gordon wrote a great book, The One Truth, just recent. And if you haven't read it, you should, because it'll talk about the fact that, everybody has a pretty good intention they want in their lives. We all have a positive feeling of what we want.
Sure.
Unfortunately, devil plays in, doubt and fear. And if you really think about it, if you want something positive in your life, and we live in in a reality of life as well, as well as spiritual. But if you want, and I think everybody wants something positive in their lives. I really do. I just truly believe that. Everybody wants something positive in their lives. So where does the negative thought come from?
Deception.
Satan.
It plays in the
The devil,
it plays
yeah.
in the spiritual world.
Yeah.
So there's that doubt and fear. Doubt and fear will turn into what?
Lack of action. I mean,
It'll turn into a distraction, right?
Confiding in things that are
Listen, if the devil
distractions.
can't make you bad, he's gonna make you busy.
Yeah.
So I'm just a big,
That's a good one, too.
I'm just a big believer that I want good things to happen, and if a negative thought comes, it's not mine. So I have the power and the ability to recognize it now, and it
Yeah.
takes time and it takes a lot of practice.
discernment.
It's valid.
Discernment, you have to, just sort of look through and think that, okay, if I'm going to do this, it's like your podcast. If you start the podcast with this intention that it's going to, not be something that's going to be positive, why,
Yeah.
where
Why
did
would
that
you do
come
it?
from?
Yeah.
Like, that's not what you want. So therefore, it's the doubt and fear where, people get hung up and they don't actually do anything outside of that because they're crippled. Or they get distracted and it takes them away from the consistency if they just showed up every day consistently and long enough.
Yeah.
The one thing that most people don't do is they don't do things long enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we have conversations about that all the time. I mean, listen, you're talking to a room full of people who I would generally categorize all three of us to varying different degrees, but alpha male, salespeople, like, don't love doing tasks, but a lot of what we do requires a lot of admin work, right? Because we're not a big company, we're a small company. If we don't do it, it doesn't get done.
Yeah.
But like sometimes, that is a recipe for impatient people. And so when we don't have an instant result, sometimes it's pretty frustrating and we're pretty hard on ourselves, which you're aware of because you've been our business coach.
Sure.
But when we really look over the long term of like from start to finish and you actually sit here, which we've done recently, and reflect on everything that we've done, it makes you realize, the long term is where it's at. You got to keep sticking with it.
Listen, you do the right, you do the small things, that build confidence.
I
it
actually
really
had
does.
a manager when I worked at Aspen Dental, and he used to always say, small wins every day. If you get one small win every day, just a small win, that adds up to one huge win at the end of the year.
Absolutely.
So if you do that every year and you look at your business in those terms, go get a small win today and you build them up into one big win, you'll have exponential growth over your book of business. And I became honestly very successful working there just off of that one little principle.
Sure. Make your bed.
Yeah.
Make your bed every morning. That's a small win, and it creates a compounding effect, because I believe you got to win the day every day. And if you're not winning the day every day, you got to figure out how. You got to know the score, and you very aware that I play games. I play games with life. And
Gamification.
gamify your life a little bit. Figure out how you can bring a game, because why do people play games? Why do we play a game?
To win.
To win. What else?
It's exciting. It's
Fun.
interesting. It's fun. Yeah.
Fun and win. Who doesn't want that in their lives? Right? Who doesn't want fun and winning in their lives?
Yeah.
So you gotta, show up, and I'm a big believer that if you gamify in a way that gives you that reward, that push when you don't want to do something, especially tasks, little things. I mean, start off making your bed, and then that creates momentum. By the end of the day, you can have so many things you can look back on and say, "Wow, I accomplished some stuff today."
Yeah.
And even if it's just making your bed, by the way.
Hey,
But it's that little mini euphoria,
For sure.
that sets the tone for your whole life.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's awesome.
So we always like to end with one question.
Sure.
You've already dropped a lot of knowledge. But we like to ask if there's like a brief, like 1 or 2, 3 sentence thought that whether it's business or personal, one quick message that you would just want to leave with everyone that's listening that you think is like the one message you would want to leave with everyone, what would that be? Well,
it's pretty easy for me. I just love to encourage people. So get around people that are encouraging. Get into a better environment. It's so important to have people around you. And if you can step back right now today and say to yourself, am I in an environment for growth or not? If you're not in that environment, then go find the environment. Come to Level Up. That'll be a good start. But there's a little plug for you. There's a little plug for you. But I think just get into a good environment. Get around people that are encouraging, that are supportive, that you can talk to, and that can open up maybe some ideas in your life. So I think it's really important. I'll leave people with that because we're at the beginning of the year. I think it's a great time for people to assess life a little bit and understand or ask the question, what do you want at the end of this year? Like, where are you going to be? And it has to be somewhere different, and it has to be somewhere higher up. You got to have a new level. It's like playing the video game, right? You have to get through this level to get to the next one.
Yep.
And what are you going to do through this year to really set yourself up to win? And that's a big one. Set yourself up to win.
Yeah. Are you in the right circle to get to that level?
A lot of people, when they write or think about things, most people don't write goals. Number one thing you have to do is write down your goal. You got to know what you want.
Put it on paper.
Right? Put it on paper.
Put it on your mirror.
Put a belief around that it's going to happen, but mostly set yourself up to win and be realistic about it as well. A lot of people say I want $10 million by the end of the year, but they have no idea how they're going to make that happen.
Facts.
Yeah, you can win the lottery. You could get lucky. That is the truth. But I think the best thing to do is just set yourself up with realistic goals. Make sure that at the end of the month, you have some reflection. Did I move the needle? If I didn't, okay, what do I need to do to make changes? Because if you don't make the change, it's going to be exactly the same. And, there are many people that are probably waking up today that can look back 1 year from now and nothing has changed.
Yeah, 100%.
So I think it's really important, and we'll end on, sort of, reassess your environment, the people you're hanging out with. The conversation's much different with winners, believe me.
Facts.
Okay. So you have to have a winning mindset, and you have to consider yourself as a winner, and you have to go do the things that are going to help you be a winner. And that could be just small things as well. And you don't have to, boil the ocean to have things happen in your life.
Yeah. The first step is come to level up.
There you
Ignite your superpower.
There you go.
And absorb the superpower of everybody else that's there.
Well, we'll put that into the beginning of second quarter, I guess, right? Because that'll be April. But right now, right now,
definitely,
I want you to just get it. Just do some discerning.
Make sure by the time we get to level up, you've got yourself in the right circle.
Well, maybe the mindset.
So then you can level up.
Just come to level up with the mindset that things are going to change for you. Because that's a really important part.
Agreed. Yeah. Well, we're super, super excited to be able to get to be a small part of Level Up.
Yeah, you guys are going to exhibit and come and be part of it, and we'll find ways that you guys can interact with the audience as well. For sure.
Well, we really appreciate you being here and taking the time. We know you're a super busy guy.
I appreciate being here.
Appreciate you taking the time and having a conversation with us and coming on the podcast.
Love it.
That's it for episode 4 of It's Personal and Entrepreneurs podcast. And episode 5 coming soon. We have our real estate attorney and friend, Brandon Berg, who's going to be on episode 5. So make sure you guys look out for that one. And that's it.
Awesome.
We appreciate you
It's
being
been
here,
awesome.
Chris.
Thanks, Chris.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you,
everyone.
Absolutely.
Let's go to 2024.
2024, big things.